Welcome to Beaded Doilies by Shell. In this video I'm going to be creating one of my faceted bead art letter squares. I will be using the right angle weave. Now with the right angle weave, you'll want to start in one of the four corners. I usually like to start at the bottom right. Now with the faceted bead art patterns, your rows are diagonal, so if you want you can also turn your pattern 45 degrees so that your rows then go up and down. Another thing you can do to help you keep track of where you are is you can cover up the next few rows and just see just the one you're working on. Now with the one needle right angle weave, you want to start with the innermost bead of the first four beads you are adding, as the first row is only 4 beads. So we start here, then you can go either this direction or this direction. Either way is fine. I'll go this way. Now in this case we have all background colors, so I'm going to add 4 background color. Now here I like to let my beads come down to my bead stopper, which in this case is just a piece of Scotch tape. Now when you add 4 beads with the right angle weave, you want to find the first one you added and thread through it in the same direction as the first threading, and that gives us our first 4 beads. Now we're ready to begin the second row, and because of the way faceted bead art patterns are, each row will begin by increasing and end by increasing, and then when we get over here each row will decrease by 1. So there are 2 ways to increase with the right angle weave depending on where your string is coming out. Our string is coming out on this side, on the same side as the second bead that we added. So we're going to add all 4 of these on at the same time. This I call the one-step increase. So we will add all 4 of those beads, and they are all 4 background colors. And like I said, when you add 4 beads with the right angle weave, you find the first one of the 4 you just added and go through it again in the same direction as the first threading. And there we have our 2 squares. This one is done, this one is done, and now we're coming out on this side away from our first row, so we're going to add the next 2 beads in this order. Both are background colors. Now when you add 2 beads, you want to go through 2 beads because you want a total of 4. So we want to go through the bead on our previous row, which in this case is the bead that our other string is coming out of. We want to go towards our current row. Then we want to go through that bead that's the last bead of our current row, plus it's the bead that our string is coming out of. And that adds our 2 beads. Now we need to get back to the end of our row so we can add our next set of beads, so we need to go through both beads we just added. And that puts us at the end of our current row. Now we are coming in towards our first row, so we're going to add these beads in this order. So we need 3 background colors. Now when you add 3 beads with the right angle weave, you want to find the bead that your string is coming out of, and then you want to go through it so it's exiting on the same side. And there you have row 1 and row 2. Now our string is coming out towards our first row, so we need to go around so that we are on the side we're going to add our next row. So we want to go through all 3 beads we just added. And now for our next row, our string is coming down along our previous row. So we want to do what I call the 2-step increase. So that means we add these 3 beads here first. So that is all background colors. And we added 3 beads. We find the bead that our string is coming out of and go through it so that it's coming out on the same side. And there we have added the first 3 beads for this row. Now we want to come to the beginning of this row. So we want to go through all 3 beads we just added. And that puts us at the beginning of our row, and our string is coming in towards our previous. So now we're at the beginning. We can add these 3 on in this order. So we need 2 backgrounds and a design. Now we added 3 beads, so we find the bead that our string is coming out of and go through it so that our string is coming out on the same side. And that gives us the beginning of our current row. So that is the 2-step increase. Now we want to come to the end of our current row. So we want to go down through the bead of our previous set and then out through the bead that is the end of the row so far. And that is how it should be looking. So now we are coming away from our previous row, so we're going to add our 2 beads in this order. So we need 2 background color. And then because we added 2, we want to go through 2, so we'll first go through the bead on our previous row that we are connecting to, and then we go through the bead that our string is coming out of. And now we want to get to the end of our row again, so we go through both beads we just added. And that puts us coming in towards our previous row. So we also want to go through the connecting bead on our previous row. And so that has us coming out of the connecting bead on our previous row, so we will add the next 2 beads in this order. That'll be 2 background colors. And as we've added 2, we want to go through 2. So first we go through the end bead of our current row and the connecting bead which our string is coming out of. And then to get us in position, we just need to go through that end bead on the row we're working on. Now we are coming away from the previous row, so we're going to add the last 3 beads in this order. And we need 3 background colors. Then we find the bead that our string is coming out of. We go through it. And then to get ready for our next, we just need to be going through this first side bead that gets us in position to add the beginning of our next row. And because we're coming up, we can add these 4, that's the 1 step increase. So when your string is coming out at the end of your row, you can do the 1 step increase, which you add all 4 beads to once, which are all background colors. Then as we added 4 beads, we want to find that first bead we added, go through it in the same direction as the first threading, and that gives us the beginning of our current row. Let's see, there. So our string is now coming away from our previous row, so it's coming out here, so we want to add 1, 2, so that is a background followed by a design. And as we've added 2, we want to go through 2, so we want to go through the connecting bead on our previous row and the bead on the end of our current row that our string is coming out of. Then we want to get back to the end of our current row, so we will go through both beads we just added. And as we're coming in towards the previous row, we will also go through the connecting bead on our previous row. So that puts it's coming out of the connecting bead on our previous row, so we're going to add this order. So we need a design followed by a background. Now we need to go through 2, so we first go through the end bead of the row we're working on, and then the connecting bead that our string is coming out of. And then to put us in position at the end of our row, we just need to go through the end bead. And that has us coming out on the end beads. We'll add the next 2 in this order. Now we want to go through the connecting bead and then the bead our string is coming out of. And to get in position, we need to go through both beads we just added. And that brings us in towards our previous row, so we will go through the connecting bead also. So that has us coming out of the connecting bead, so we will add 1, 2, both are design color. Now we want to go through first the end bead and then the connecting bead where our string is coming out. And this time we just go through the end bead of our current row. That puts us in position for the next set. So we're coming out on this side, so we're going to add 1 and 2. Both are background color. Then we go through the connecting bead and then the end bead where our string is coming out. Then we want to get to our end again, so we go through both beads we just added. And as we have no more connecting beads to go through, we stop there. And we are coming in towards our previous row, so we're going to add the last 3 beads in this order. That's 3 background colors. And we go through the bead that our string is coming out of. Now we are ready to do a decrease. And for a decrease, we want our string coming out of the second bead, side bead, instead of the first one. So we want to go, instead of going through the beads we just added, we want to go down through the previous beads. So we go down through the inner side bead. Then we go out, so that we're coming out of the row we're working on. And then we want to go through that second side bead. So we go through it, and our string is coming up towards the end of our row. So we're coming up this way, so we're going to add 1, 2, 3. So that is 3 background colors. And as we have added 3, we find the bead that our string is coming out of and go through it again. And there we have the beginning of this row. Now we want to be at the end of the row, so we need to go through all 3 beads we just added. And this brings us in towards our previous row, so we will go through our connecting bead. And that has us coming out from the connecting bead, so we will add 1, 2. So that is a design and a background. And then we go in through our end bead and then through our connecting bead that our string is coming out of. And then to get us in position, we want to go through our new end bead for our current row. And that has us coming out this way, so we'll add 1, 2. So we need a design, then a background. And we'll go first through our connecting bead. And then through our end bead. Now we'll go through both beads to get to our new end bead. And as we're coming in towards the previous row, we will also go through our connecting bead. And we're coming out of the connecting bead, so we'll add in this order 2 design colors. Go through our end bead and then the connecting bead our string is exiting from. And then we'll go through our new end bead, so we're ready for our next set. So we're coming out this way here, so we'll add in this order, and this is our last set for this row. So add 2 background colors, then we'll go through our connecting bead and out through our previous end bead. And now we want to be coming out this second side bead. So instead of going up through the first one, we will go down through the second one. And as we're coming down, we'll add our first 3 beads in this order. Then we'll go through the bead that our string is coming out of. And we just need to go through the end bead of this current row. And that makes it coming out on this side, so we will add 1, 2. That's 2 background colors. Now we'll go through our connecting bead, and then the end bead where our string is exiting. And then we want to be at the end, so we'll go through both beads we just added. And as we're coming in towards our previous row, we will go through our connecting bead. So we're coming out of the connecting bead, so we'll add 1, 2. Now this time we're only going to go through the end bead. We're not going to go through the connecting bead again, and that is because we want to instead go down and then out, and then we want to go through the second bead, which in this case is the middle bead. And now we're coming this direction. You'll want to check if these are different colors. You'll want to check which direction you're actually coming out, and then you'll want to add the beads in the correct order. We need 3 background colors. And then we go through that bead that our string is coming out of. And there we have our piece finished. Now what I like to do with the 1 needle stitch is weave back through some of the pattern. I go back and forth, making sure to turn 90 degrees each time. And I go back about 6 beads. Like I said, you want to make sure to turn 90 degrees each time as you weave back. Once you've gone about 6 beads, then you'll turn and head back the direction you came. Again, make sure to weave through the piece, turning 90 degrees for each bead that you bead through. And once you've gone back to where you've begun, then you can clip off the excess. then for the beginning, I use Scotch tape with my monofilament line, and it just slides right off. And then I do the same thing with this end to secure it. Just weave back and forth. Like I said, I like to go about 6 beads and then come back. And that secures the string. I haven't had any pieces so far come undone. So this seems to work very well for the 1 needle stitch. And there we have our letter square. I hope you enjoyed.